All right. So, I mean, it's quite a hot topic at the minute. Has been for a few years, working with the spaces between the breaths. And it's always been part of pranayama to do that, along with many other things. And holographic breathing started for me. I just started breathing in that way now nearly 20 years ago. It was just kind of 2002, something like that. It just started. And one of the first things I worked with and noticed was the different qualities between the in-breath and the out-breath with holographic breathing. It made it much more vivid and potent. And I also noticed weighting on the in-breath and the out-breath had very specific qualities when doing it with holographic breathing. So this may bring a new experience to people who have worked with the spaces between the breaths but not done holographic breathing. It may not, it may be the same for people, but my guess is it will bring a new experience to that whole dimension. Now, in the last one of these, we worked a lot with circulating our attention and the breath around the center line of our body. And it was on the in-breath, more the energy was rising up the spine to the top of the head, and on the out-breath was coming down to the pelvis. And there you'd wait at the end of the in-breath in the head, and there'd be release, and you could wait at the end of the out-breath in the pelvis, and there'd be a release from the pelvis. Now, this is similar to small orbit breathing, which again is in Taoist yoga, normal yoga, pranayama, but it's not done exactly the same as that. There is a slightly different circuit. So this is just more how it works for me in holographic breathing. And I'm going to add some extra material to that. I'm not exactly going to say just yet. Let me just, for the new people, I'm thinking actually what I'll do is I'll teach holographic breathing first. Be a good idea. And then I'm going to talk a little bit longer actually, and that'll give everybody a chance to get there, but I will go over it. Now, in the last one, if you just breathe out, allow the energy to drop and your attention to drop, it'll normally get down to the center of the pelvis. And then on the in-breath, if you allow it to rise, normally, well, with one space, if you allow it to drop and have one space, it would normally drop to the center of the pelvis in that space at the end of the out-breath. And then on the in-breath, it would rise to the center of the cranium with the space. The space takes it higher on the in-breath and takes it lower on the out-breath. And to get it so that it gets right into the base of the pelvis, right into the sit bones, what I was teaching people to do was breathing out, wait, sits in the center of the pelvis, do another little out breath, and that takes it down into the pelvic floor and the sit bones. And once you get into the pelvic floor, then you can get a pretty good release in that second space. And it also starts to circle the breath from the pelvic floor. It starts releasing back into the sacrum and then up the spine. So rather than the center of the cranium, you end up in the back of the cranium. Then you do another little sip in, takes you to the top and the crown chakra. And if you wait there for a while, you get a nice release of the crown chakra, and the energy naturally travels forwards into the forehead, where it naturally starts releasing down. You breathe down and stop, or you breathe out and stop, and it ends up in the pubic bone around that area. Do another little out breath, drops into the center of the pelvic floor, starts releasing from there into the sacrum, and it starts this circle. And then from there we added a third one. So breathe in, pause, the back of the head, breathe in a little bit more, pause, opens the crown chakra, breathe in a little bit more, pulls it into the forehead. And so we're circulating, and the same in the pelvis, breathing out, drops into the front of the pelvis, breathe out a little bit more, and wait in the sit bones and around the anus area, breathe out a little bit more, and it releases into the sacrum, and the sacrum releases, and it comes up the spine. So we were doing that circuit. So that is what we will basically be doing, but then I'll be adding a new dimension to that. So we will go over that a little bit again, but everybody who's going to be here to learn the holographic breathing are hopefully here now. And it is important while learning holographic breathing, if you've already learned it, you can do it lying down, sitting, however you want to do it. But if you're new to it, it's good to be sitting and aware, because the actual dynamics of holographic breathing are quite precise. And if you miss a bit out, it just doesn't work. Once it starts going, it's a bit like an initiation. Once it starts going, that's it, it's going, and you can connect to it anytime. But building up to that initiation, you need to get all the little bits in place for it to start working. So it's important to, if you're new, to be aware, to be sitting, because it's also very relaxing and really easy for people to pass out once you start doing holographic breathing or fall asleep. And there's a very important part where we change from the motion in the mouth to the feeling of it coming through the nose. That's an important part, to be awake through that. So saying that, I'm going to describe what it is. Now it's and for this first bit, you can start doing that now through my explanation on it. The tongue is on the roof of the mouth, and it's the flat of the tongue. The flat of the tongue's on the roof of the mouth. The tip of the tongue will be touching or close to the front teeth, and it's as much of the tongue on the roof of the mouth as feels comfortable. You don't want to force your tongue on the roof of the mouth, but you do want a certain amount of your tongue on the roof of the mouth. And the tip of the tongue, if it doesn't touch the upper front teeth, it's fine to have it a little bit back, but comfortable. So the tongue is on the roof of the mouth. The lips are relaxed and closed. The breath is through the nose all the time. So it's through the nose all the time. The lips stay closed all the time. The tongue stays on the roof of the mouth all the time. And within that, that's staying in place. On the in-breath, the jaw gently opens. And on the out-breath, the jaw gently closes. It's just a small motion of the jaw, a few millimeters, a quarter of an inch. Now, it's hard just to start doing that. It's a bit counterintuitive. So we're going to go through some exercises to do it. But one thing that happens often when people are learning it, they come to, you know, the lips are closed, the tongue's on the roof of the mouth, the breath through the nose, and now we're going to move the jaw, and people think, well, that's impossible. Martin's told us wrong. The lips have to open for my jaw to open. That is not true. I haven't told it to you wrongly, or not that I know of. Every day while you're reading, the lips are closed, the jaw goes up and down. So the lips stay closed all of the time. The tongue stays on the roof all of the time. There's this gentle motion of the jaw, and that starts to spread through the whole body with an energy to it. It's very subtle motion. It's a meditative breathwork system, so you don't force anything. If your tongue comes off the roof of the mouth while you're doing it, that's fine. Just notice that's happened. Put it back on the roof of the mouth. If it carries on doing that, try making the movement smaller, slower, and softer. Now make it easier to do that. So if it hurts in any way, if it feels awkward in any way, softer, slower, more relaxed. Now I'm going to demonstrate it just for a few breaths, just so that you can see the lips are actually closed. It's a very subtle motion of the jaw. You probably won't even see it, but it takes you into a deep state of relaxation very quickly. So I'll just do a few breaths just to show that. And as I said, very quickly you drop into quite a deep and meditative place. It naturally synchronizes with all the mechanisms of your breath and all the energies of your breath through your whole body. So it kind of feels like you've just started a memory, as if you've always known how to do this. And I think people have. I think this is how we breathe in the womb. And then when we're born, a whole polarization happens and we move into our present breath. But this, for me, takes people back through that transition and back into that place. All right, so we're going to start that. We're going to bring in some energies, and then we're going to go through a list of exercises to start that. For the new people, absolutely important to stay aware and awake through the procedure to learn it, because there's important pointers for it to work and for it to feel good. Then once it's going, you've got it. It doesn't matter after that point, but for this, to get it through this first bit, be seated, be aware. It's not a wishy-washy thing. This first bit is scientific, but important. All right, closing your eyes. If you know holographic breathing, dropping into the holographic breathing. If you don't, just gently doing your own breath, but with the tongue on the roof of the mouth and the lips closed and the breath through the nose. And sending a smile to the earth, sending some energy to the earth, and allow the earth to say hello back. Allow yourself to receive from the earth. Notice what that feels like through your body and through your energies. Then sending a smile, sending some energy to the higher self and the beneficial energies. The beneficial energies are any channels or energies you like to work with. You can say hello to them, the higher self and the beneficial energies. Sending a smile, sending some energy, and allowing them to say hello back. allowing yourself to receive from the higher self and the beneficial energies, and notice what that feels like through your body and through your energies. And allow the earth, or ask the earth, the higher self, and the beneficial energies to be with you through this whole webinar as a healing guide and your own inner resource. And now we're going to move into the exercises, having the lips closed and relaxed, having your tongue relaxed and on the roof of the mouth. It may be half an inch or the whole tongue covering the roof of the mouth, whatever feels comfortable, but it is the flat of the tongue, not the tip of the tongue. On the roof of the mouth, the lips are relaxed and closed, the breath is through your nose. And then very gently allowing the jaw to open and close, just softly and slowly, letting the jaw move up and down. So you can see it's possible to move the jaw and have the lips closed and the tongue relaxed on the roof of the mouth. And when you've done that a few times, just to see that that's possible, the next time you allow the jaw to open, let it bring the breath in through your nose. Next time your jaw closes, allow it to exhale the breath out through your nose. Notice it feels like a little pump. As the jaw gently opens, just a small amount, allow the breath to come in through your nose. As the jaw relaxes closed, allow the breath to come out through your nose, and just spending a little bit of time becoming used to that. Relax the back of the neck. Relax the back of the head. As the jaw opens, it feels like a little bellows, and it draws the breath in through the nose. And as it gently closes, it lets the breath come out through the nose, relaxing your whole body and just being with that soft, gentle motion of the jaw. Now we're going to change the gestalt. It's important to be aware through this time. So at the minute the jaw gently opens and the breath comes in, the jaw gently closes and the breath comes out. And now swapping that over so your awareness comes to the breath. So as you breathe in through the nose, the jaw relaxes open. As you breathe out through the nose, the jaw relaxes closed. Notice the whole quality change. Notice it gets much softer, much more meditative. And it's as if the jaw just relaxes open. As the breath comes in, the jaw is just relaxing open, just a small amount, a few millimeters. Breathing out, the jaw is relaxing closed, bringing that emphasis to the breath moving in and out. The tongue stays on the roof of the mouth, the lips stay relaxed and closed. As the jaw relaxes open on the in-breath, relaxes closed on the out-breath, but as the teeth come together, they just gently float together. There's no pressure between the teeth as they touch. Or you can have it so they don't touch at all. Notice how after a while it just feels like this totally natural thing, and you start not even noticing the jaw. It's as if it's just going on its own. It started and it just connects to the breath and the mechanics of the breath. And as you breathe in, it just is gently opening. And as you breathe out, it is gently closing. Being aware of the chest opening on the in-breath, and as it does, the jaw opens with it. Feeling the chest closing on the out-breath, and the jaw gently closes with it. And the abdomen, as the abdomen opens, the jaw relaxes open. And as the abdomen closes, the jaw relaxes closed. The tongue stays relaxed on the roof of the mouth. The lips stay relaxed and closed. If it hurts or feels awkward in any way, softer, slower, smaller motion. Notice you start feeling a deep relaxation. It starts feeling as if every cell in your body is starting to breathe. Every cell opens on the in-breath and the jaw follows along. Every cell closes on the out-breath and the jaw follows along. And that in a very subtle way, your whole neck, throat, face, cranium, and brain have started to breathe with the rest of your body. Allowing them to breathe. And it just feels totally natural, as if you've known this from somewhere before. It just links into your breath. All sorts of different energies start releasing, and all sorts of internal motions start to happen. Notice you get access to your whole body. You can travel to different areas of your body. You can feel them opening on the in-breath and closing on the out-breath. Just feel softer and easier the more you do it. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Relaxing through your whole body. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. Notice how deeply relaxing it is. Notice you move into kind of a new state, kind of a shamanistic place, or start traveling into a new place. It's not otherworldly, it's still physical and grounded, but it's like a new arena, and that your brain starts to breathe, and your cranium and face in a very subtle way start to breathe. And in about a minute, I'm gonna bring you back. Gently breathing with the holographic breathing. And when you feel ready, gently allowing yourselves to come back. Okay. Okay. All right. So allowing your eyes to open. So I just want to check with the new people who hadn't done holographic breathing. Wave your hands if you managed to do it okay. Okay, let me just change page just to see. Okay, I can't see it. Now, I'm going to change page again. Wave your hand if you found it, if you were new and you found it troublesome in any way. No one. Either no one or no one is willing to say they found it troublesome. That's brilliant. Brilliant. Great. Great, great, great. I'm having to swap between pages just to check that everyone's okay. Wave your hands if you enjoyed it. Brilliant. Everyone enjoyed it. Brilliant. Let me just look on the other page. Brilliant. All right. So now, as I said, I've had coronavirus and not been well and still a bit iffy. So it's not going to be a 2-hour webinar, as I'd stated. And what we're going to do is just go straight into what we finished with last time, rather than doing a long preamble to it. I'll just teach you how to circle the breath, and hopefully that will be okay. It's a bit, for me, it's a bit like when you've taught a lot of people how to do something and they come to the webinar, it makes it easier for the new people because there's an energy behind it, so people can generally just drop into it more quickly. And I think some people have joined since I last described this. So we're going to start with it traditionally, and what for me what happens energetically is as you breathe out, the energy drops in the body, and as you breathe in, the energy rises in the body. Now, I know you can do it both ways, but to start off with, I just want people to follow along as I'm describing, because I want it will lead to a specific experience. So if you're just breathing in and out in that way, breathing out, you allow the energy to drop, breathing in, normally is in the torso. It normally rises up and down in the torso. But if you wait at the end of the out breath, it normally drops it deeper. It drops it into the center of the pelvis. And then as you wait on the end of the in breath, it rises to the center of the cranium. So the pauses, take it deeper if you're dropping and take it higher if you're rising. And then if you take an extra little out breath after the first pause in the pelvis, it'll take it down to the pelvic floor and sit bones, where you can start releasing the whole pelvic floor, the rectum, the sit bones, and the sexual energies around that energy, so the area, so they can release up the spine. Then as you breathe in, moves from the center of the cranium up to the top of the cranium. You start getting a release in the crown chakra. So that is with 2, and it automatically starts circling then. As you do it with 2 stops in the breath, it starts coming down the front of the body to the pubic bone for the first pause, then back to the sit bones for the second pause, and then releases into the sacrum and up the spine. It arrives in the back of the head for the first pause, top of the head for the second pause, and it releases through the forehead down the front of the body. And then we will do 3 pauses. So on the out breath, drop into the pubic center, the pubic bone. The second pause, the kind of around the sit bones area. In the third pause, the sacrum, and the sacrum releases. And the same in head. First pause, second pause, third pause. No stress. So if your breath is too short, you don't have to do the pauses. You can just bring it 1, 2, 3 without actually pausing. That's okay. Or you can let, as you're breathing out, you can let it go quicker so you arrive at the pubic center faster. I know with quite a few different people are working with the spaces between the breaths, and there's nothing wrong with it. There really isn't. There's benefits to every different way you do it, but it can become a little bit athletic where people are holding their breath for 1 or 2 minutes or something like that. With holographic breathing, it's always gentle, it's always easy. And for one of the benefits of this, one of the benefits of pausing between the breaths is, one, you start taking a much deeper breath and you start having to breathe with the diaphragm because the breath is longer. So you're actually having to take in more air and more oxygen to sustain you through that time. So you start breathing deeper, which is one thing. And it, over a period of time, if you do it gently and over a period of time, the whole breathing apparatus starts growing, expanding. The diaphragm becomes more active and working better. So it expands your breathing apparatus, and it also contracts it, whereas before it may not be contracting fully. So it just gives you a much bigger breath. But for me, these things, it's best to take them slowly and easy so there's no stress. And another benefit is that generally, well, 2 other things. Generally, people have their emphasis on the in-breath. Just a natural breath, it's normally 2 or 3 seconds in and 1.5 seconds out. So this puts your breath out of balance. For some reason, the whole world is out of balance with their normal breath, that the emphasis is on the in-breath. It's generally longer and the out-breath is shorter. So I got the names wrong last time. So the sympathy, that, please don't correct me if I've got it wrong. It's just I'm dyslexic and I can't remember the words, but I'll describe. So they got the sympathetic nervous system, which is much more to do with the adrenals, the kidneys, the fight and flight. And you've got the parasympathetic nervous system, which is much more to do with the vagus nerve, the organs, and all the different things the body is just doing on its own. And the in-breath is much more to do with the adrenals and the fight and flight. And the out-breath is much more to do with the parasympathetic nervous system and relaxation and the organs. So if the emphasis is more on the in-breath, it's much more bringing in that nervous action, fight and flight. But if you balance them, then you get the action, but you also get the relaxation. So many things happen in this that are just very, very beneficial just by doing it easily and softly. The other thing, because we're breathing so quickly, we're getting too much oxygen in the body. People are tired often, so trying to get more oxygen to try and feed themselves. This is inaccurate. If you breathe a lot to get more oxygen, you will get more oxygen in the blood, but you'll get less oxygen in the destination, in the cells. It won't actually get to the cells. What happens is, as the body registers that there's too much oxygen, or there's more, that the oxygen and CO2 are out of balance, if there's a higher amount of oxygen, the capillaries will constrict, the bronchial tubes will constrict, and the cells will also close. They won't accept the oxygen. So you're getting more oxygen into the arteries, but it's harder work and the cells aren't receiving it. As the carbon dioxide grows in the blood, it gets to a point, and then at a certain point, the capillaries and arteries will dilate. They'll let a larger flow of blood going through. The cells will start receiving oxygen, so all that oxygen gets delivered to the cells. So if you take a deep in-breath, which we will be doing because it'll be longer and people will be forced to breathe with their diaphragm, then you get this larger amount of oxygen coming into the body. But then it's a long breath, so that oxygen is being used up and used into carbon dioxide. And at a certain point, there'll start being more carbon dioxide. At that point, all of the blood vessels will dilate, they'll open, the cells will open, all of that oxygen will get delivered to the cells. So suddenly, as we're breathing fast all the time on a capitual, on a all the time, the cells aren't receiving the oxygen. But in this, you kind of, in a very gentle way, are just flushing the body with every breath. And for that procedure to work, for the cells to open with the carbon dioxide and the capillaries and arteries to open, you only need to be slightly short of breath. So you don't need to hold your breath for a minute. You just need to be slightly out of breath. Now, there may be many other benefits to holding your breath for a long time, but that particular dynamic of flushing your system, getting the cells to receive and let go and use oxygen, you only need to be slightly out of breath to balance your nervous system, to balance your oxygen and carbon dioxide. You only really need to have an equal length in breath and out breath. So many things are sated, many things are helped with this. And then on top of that, we're circulating the energies around the body. Okay, any questions before we go into that? Who says what you mean by the sacrum? So let me just get something. Here's a pelvis, your legs, your spine here. Whoops, spine's wrong way around. That would have been painful. The sacrum is this bit here. Your spine drops down into the sacrum. Often thought of as the sacred sacrum, as this is the last place that the sexual energies are leaving for the kundalini to rise up through the spine. So as the sacrum releases, then that rises up through the spine and starts or is part of a whole spiritual evolution. Someone else asked what I meant by releases. Well, I guess you'll feel that when we get to it, and you may or may not feel those. But for me, there's just a feeling of release when we get to the pelvic floor and the top of the head. The pelvic floor, that was another one, is like a bowl inside here, and it's all the membranes of under the pelvis. Between, you've got the rectum here, the pubic bone here, so it's this whole area, but it also comes up inside the whole of the pelvis, and that is the pelvic floor or pelvic diaphragm. So sometimes I might swap between pelvic floor and pelvic diaphragm, but I think I'll more likely to be saying sit bones or rectum, as people know where they are. Sit bones is what you sit on, the rectum what you poo through, sorry, where you pee is further forwards. The pubic bone is the bone right at the front, and sacrum is the bone right at the back. The occiput, lower back of the head, I will just say lower back of the head. Crown chakra, top of the head. Forehead, or I might say frontal bone, is here. Wave your hands if you're ready to start. All right, brilliant, brilliant. All right, okay, closing your eyes and gently dropping into the holographic breathing. Again, wave at me if there's any kind of interruptions so that I know, because I've got my headphones off. Let me just change this page so it goes into full screen. So gently breathing with the holographic breathing. The lips are relaxed and closed. The tongue is relaxed and on the roof of the mouth. The breath is through the nose all of the time. On the in-breath, the jaw relaxes open. On the out-breath, the jaw relaxes closed. Notice how quickly you drop into a deep, relaxed, and meditative place. Notice how natural it feels, as if you've always known this breathing. And start to become aware of the in-breath and the out-breath, and allowing them to be about the same. The length of the in-breath balances the length of the out-breath. Then allowing yourself to drop in the body as you breathe out. And then rise in the body as you breathe in. So as you're breathing out, you're dropping down into the abdomen. As you're breathing in, you rise up into the chest. Nice, long, slow breaths. Then at the end of the out breath, just wait for a few seconds and notice this might drop you deeper in the body and you might feel a very different feeling in that place. And then at the end of the in-breath, also pausing, and you might notice that takes you higher up into the cranium. And also you may feel a kind of a release in that place. You may not, or you may. However it feels is fine. Breathing out, allowing yourself to drop. And wait. Not long, just enough to have the experience of waiting. Then breathing in, rising. And then wait. Notice if this brings you up into the cranium. You may feel a pulsing in your body in the pauses. You may feel many things. Whatever you feel is fine and correct for you. You may feel nothing at all. Whatever you're experiencing is fine. No force. Just staying for as long as is comfortable and moving into the in-breath and out-breath, waiting in the pause for as long as is comfortable, and then moving back into the breath. Notice that you're getting a much deeper breath, and it becomes important to start breathing with the abdomen as well as the chest so you can get a deep enough breath to sustain you through that time. Notice in the pause if you drop into the pelvis or rise into the cranium. And for some people it may feel very nice in that pause, but don't wait for too long, otherwise you'll run out of breath. Each time you wait, you may have an experience and it won't go away. The next time you revisit it, that experience will carry on and get deeper. So you don't have to wait a long time, because each time you revisit the pelvis or cranium and that pause, that experience will carry on. Breathing out, you drop, you pause, and down into the pelvis. Breathing in, you rise, you pause, and rise into the cranium. Notice how nice the pauses feel. You might feel a pulsing, or you might feel a feeling of release in the pauses. It's very tempting to stay there for a long time, but then you'll be forcing your breath. And we want to do this in a way that is very gentle, very easy. And check that you're doing the holographic breathing. So you're naturally expanding your breathing apparatus on the in-breath, and you're naturally letting the out-breath also be longer, so it's making it smaller on the out-breath and larger on the in-breath. But don't force the out-breath. The out-breath is just a relaxation, not forcing the out breath in any way. You just relax on the out breath. So on the next out breath, you drop, you wait a little bit, then take another little out breath and notice if you drop deeper down to the sit bones. And then you might feel that releasing into the sacrum, the back of the pelvis, up the spine, and the first pause is the back of the head, and then you breathe in a bit more. The second pause is the crown chakra. You may feel a releasing there, and the energy releases forwards into the forehead and naturally drops down the front of the body. So you start circling the breath. Now you may need to make the pauses shorter, so you can do both, or just have the first pause very short and then have a longer second pause. And if it's hard on your breath, you can take less time to travel from the head to the pelvis and from the pelvis to the head. Again, comfortable. You don't have to strain yourself in any way. You don't have to make the pauses long. They will still be there the next time you come round. If it's hard work, you can just take an extra couple of breaths, or you can make the time that it takes to get from the pelvis to the cranium shorter. It's quite nice to pause for a bit longer time in the crown chakra and get quite a nice release in the crown chakra. And it's also quite nice to spend a bit longer pause in the sit bones and around the rectum, so you get a nice release from that area. Notice if you get a feeling of a pulsing or a release in the top of the head and in the sit bones. And whatever you feel is correct for you. And relax the back of the head, relax the back of the neck. You only need to feel slightly out of breath. It's not the Olympics, it's not a competition, there's no race. The most beneficial, healing thing you can have is that it's relaxed, soft, and easy. That is the most important thing, not how long your breath or how deep your breath is. The most beneficial thing is the relaxation. Notice as the crown chakra releases, it feeds forwards into the forehead. And as the sit bones and rectum release, it releases back into the sacrum and starts this rotation. And then try a third pause. So in the cranium, it goes from the back of the head, 1, top of the head, 2, forehead, 3. And allow the first 2 to be short and then longer in the forehead and in the pelvis. Goes from the pubic arch to the sit bones, and the third pause in the sacrum, the back of the pelvis, and allow the longest pause to be in the sacrum. So 2 very short pauses and a bit of a longer one in the sacrum. Don't stretch, don't force your breath, don't make it too long. Gently being with it, gently allowing it to work, allowing the energies to circle. You only need to feel slightly out of breath for your oxygen and carbon dioxide to balance. Every time you come back to the pauses, they will move on from the last time, so you don't have to wait in the pauses for long. And then drop back to 2 pauses, so you can take a longer hold or weight in the pelvic floor, in the sit bones and the crown chakra. Remember to do the holographic breathing. And when you feel ready, gently allowing yourselves to come back. Okay. Okay. So wave your hands if you felt anything similar to what I was saying. Most people. Let me go on to the other page. Okay. Most people. Some people didn't. Whatever you feel is perfect for you, so it doesn't have to be the same as I'm describing. So you may feel something completely different, and that is really okay. You may be feeling a different dynamic or a different energy, You may just be contacting it in a different way, so that is really fine. Who've experienced a nice feeling in the spaces between the breaths? Right. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. It's kind of, when it's a nice feeling, when you get to the space in the breath, it's a nice feeling. It makes you, encourages you to stay there a little bit longer. So rather than it being, oh my God, I'm going to die, it's like, oh no, I'm going to hang out here a bit. I don't care if I'm going to die. This feels really nice. So, and I don't want anyone to actually die, but it for me, there's a whole different experience, the space in the breath when I'm doing holographic breathing, the space in the breath when I'm doing my normal breathing. Or I don't do normal breathing, but if I force myself to do normal breathing, then it's a completely different experience. For me, I was dying of Lyme's disease. I was kind of coming to the end of my life. I was one more bout of pneumonia and that would have been it for me, I think. You know, it attacked my brain and nervous system, and I'd had it for 7 years without even realizing. I didn't know why I was so ill. And that's why the coronavirus has worried me, because my weak place is my chest. And as soon as something gets on my chest, it's hard for it to leave. And I was just meditating and just breathing with the sinuses here, working with those. And there's this huge release in my brain, and this energy just drove through my face, through the bones. It was like lightning, but it was physical. It just drove. The teeth almost felt like they were coming out the sockets, and the whole jaw just lit up, I think in bright orange, something like that. And it just fell into place. It just started working. It pulled my tongue up onto the roof of the mouth, pulled my lips closed, and on the in-breath, the jaw just started breathing like that. And it never stopped. So for me, I teach people and they do it bits and they practice it, and it more and more becomes something they do through their lives and their daytime. See, it's not something you have to do as a meditation. You can do it as you're walking or doing stuff, but it just started and never stopped. So I actually have to try not to do it. And have been spreading the word ever since then for nearly 20 years now, and it's just starting to take hold, which is really nice. So we are going to go a little bit further. As I said, I am tired today, so I'm not going to do much. And from Lyme's disease, it's so nearly killed me. I do have to be careful around illnesses. I'm hugely better, but I have a low immune system. And what we're going to do, when you now traditionally, with the small orbit breathing, the energy rises up through the head on the in-breath and then comes down on the out-breath. But with holographic breathing, it kind of is natural to do that, to feel the energies. When you circulate it that way, you feel the energies more strongly. But there's also a physical motion in holographic breathing. The sinuses and nasal passageways, these relate to the lungs and chest. So that is what we're normally doing, and it's a much lighter breath. But the mouth and jaw synchronizes with the bones and the muscles through the whole body for a whole body moving breath, which we more experience through the mouth. If we turn this round, so on the in-breath, we're dropping, we drop down into the pelvis. Then for me, I start becoming in contact with the deeper energies in holographic breathing, the more physical internal motion. of the breath. So for a while, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to run it the other way around. Now, in the next, I'm going to repeat this in 4 weeks' time. I'll put a link in the comments, and we'll take it deeper in that one, and I'll be more compos mentis in that one. So do come to that, because we'll take it a lot deeper, but we will just spend a bit of time running it the other way, and notice if you feel a difference. It should, for me, it feels more physical. There's a darker, deeper energy, and with this physical internal motion of breath, it does take me back to a feeling of being in the womb. So are we ready to go? Brilliant. So this time, breathing in, we're taking the energies deeper, and it'll encourage you, because as you're breathing in, you're coming into the pelvis. So it's encouraging the pelvis to open and the abdomen open. So it gives you a much bigger breath in the abdomen and the diaphragm and the pelvis. And then this time, the out breath is through the cranium. So it's closing in the cranium. Before, it was opening in the cranium and closing in the pelvis. Now we're swapping it around, and there's a different qualitative feel to it. All right, closing your eyes and gently dropping into the holographic breathing. And this time, as you breathe in, allow yourself to descend in the body. And as you breathe out, allow yourself to rise in the body. Breathing in, you're dropping. Breathing out, you're rising. It may feel a little bit awkward at first, but allow that to be. And then breathing in, dropping, and wait. And notice if that drops you into the pelvis. Breathing out and wait. Notice if that leaves you in the cranium. Notice you get a much deeper breath in the abdomen, the pelvis, and the diaphragm. And enjoy those spaces. Notice how nice it feels to hang out in the space between the breaths. Notice what a nice sensation that is. And there is the feeling of wanting to stay there forever. But unfortunately, you die if you do that. So, and you don't want to force the breath in at all, but if you just wait there for a bit, the next time you come back to that place, the experience carries on and goes deeper. Notice it may feel much more physical, may feel much more lower body orientated, and it may feel much darker, but also notice there may be a deeper feeling of relaxation to it. And that you can really get a nice expansion in the pelvis on the in-breath. letting that run through you, allowing yourself to breathing in, dropping, holding in the space or waiting in the space at the end of the in-breath. Waiting on the space at the end of the out-breath. Then as you breathe in, taking an extra breath and let that be the longer one, so you end up sitting down into the sit bones on the in-breath, rising up into the crown chakra on the out-breath, and that it starts circling around the body, rising up the spine on the out-breath, dropping down the front of the body on the in-breath. And if it's too long a breath, you can spend less time moving from the back of the pelvis to the back of the head and from the forehead to the front of the pelvis. You can just have a shorter journey and a longer space. Remembering to do the holographic breathing. It's holographic breathing that is igniting these energies and the internal motion. So remembering to do the holographic breathing. Notice how it really activates the diaphragm. There's a deep relaxation, and in the spaces also this lovely feeling. And it may also give you a feeling of dropping back before birth. Kind of you move into a different realm of how it was floating in the womb, and that you breathed like this in your womb. Gently breathing. Allowing it all to work. Not forcing anything. Enjoying the pauses. Not too long a breath. Something that is comfortable. And pauses that are comfortable. There's no need to force it. The main thing is it's just relaxed. There's nothing to achieve here. No bigger, longer, stronger. Nothing to achieve, just relaxed, easy. Then add an extra pause, the first two much shorter, and as it moves into the sacrum on the in-breath, you can hold that a bit longer, and as it moves into the forehead on the out-breath, you can hold that a bit longer, but again, not forcing anything. You'll have a little longer breath with 3 pauses, but just as long as feels comfortable. Let the spine release, let the pelvis release, let the head release. Let everything relax. And then taking it back to 2 pauses, sorry. And then to 1 pause. Notice you may not be able to sink quite as deep. Then no pauses. Notice you may be more in your torso now. And then when you feel ready, gently allowing yourselves to come back. So wave your hands if you enjoyed that. Oh, brilliant. Wave your hands if it felt different to the first way of doing it. Everyone. Brilliant. Wave your hands if it felt darker and more physical in that one. Few people. Okay, but it definitely felt different. Good.